Welcome back to the vlog. We're going to be at Capital Casino playing in the 1-3. It's going to be covering 2 days. I know a lot of you are talking about the incident down at Hustler Casino between Garrett and Robbie. I'm not going to go over that. I think it's been covered quite a lot already, and I'm kind of tired of hearing about it, and I'm sure you guys are too. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Let's get into the action. Here it comes. There's a limp in from an undergun player with about 180 in the stack. I'm in the low jack, decide to raise it up to 15. It's folded back round to him, he defends. Flop comes out Jack, Jack 5 with 2 spades. He ends up checking it to me with a flush draw and 2 big cards. I'm going to go ahead and bet 15. He puts it in the call. So with 64 in, we see a turn card of an ace of diamonds. I would normally check this back at this point, but the ace of diamonds is such a good scare card for my particular range. So when he checks to me, I'm going to go ahead and fire again. If he puts in big check raise, I'm going to probably have to fold my hand because I won't be getting the proper odds to draw to a flush. He thinks about it for a while and decides to put in the call. So we're headed off to the river with 124 in the pot. He has about 100 remaining, and the river card comes as a beautiful deuce of spades. With the second nut flush, we're hoping that our opponent has a jack at this point. So I decided I'm going to shove. He might call with an ace. He definitely would call with a jack. He puts in a quick call. I turn over my king 9 of spades, and he shows me ace jack of clubs. So he flopped trips, turned a full house, and got paid off on the end. I've been bleeding off chips for the last hour and a half. Bought in an extra $500, so we have $700 in our stack, but we're stuck $300. There's a $10 straddle. I decided to limp. The player behind me raised to 35. Gets called in 2 spots, so we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 109 in. Flop comes out ace 10 3, and we check it to the aggressor. He ends up betting for $30. I kind of have a read on him that he's not very strong, so I don't think he has an ace at this point. So I decided to call and just float and see if I can steal this with a diamond. Turn card comes as a 9 of clubs. I checked, he checked it right back. And the river card comes as an 8 of diamonds. I'm going to represent diamonds here. So I end up betting for 110. He thinks for only a second before letting his hand go. So I'm slowly grinding my way back. The hijack puts in a raise to 25. I call from the cutoff with 2 9s. And we can call from the button and also 1 from the blind. So we go 4 ways to this flop of 7 3 5 with 2 spades. Ends up getting checked to me. My hand needs a lot of protection, being a middle-sized pair. I don't have a spade in my hand, so there's a good chance someone's going to have some sort of spade draw. I make a pretty chunky sized bet of $75, hoping that to get a bunch of folds, and if I get a call, I'm going to be very careful with it, especially if overcards or spades hit. End up getting folded back around to the player in the hijack, and he thinks for a while and finally decides to give it up. So happy to take this small pot down. We got another pocket pair, this time it's 7s. Open for a raise to 15, get called from the player in the hijack along with 2 other players. So we're going to end up going 4 ways to this flop, which comes out 6 deuce deuce with 2 spades. That's a pretty good flop for my particular hand, so I'm going to go ahead and bet it. And I'm going to bet a little bit on the bigger size, this time for $40. I really have to protect against flush draws and overcards. Don't want to give anyone a cheap price to draw to them. Opponent on my left puts in the quick call. The other players end up folding out. So at this point, I'm putting them on something like spades, possibly a 6. King of clubs comes on the turn. Interesting card. I'm going to go ahead and bet again, just in case, but I'm doing it a little bit on the smaller size. So if he has a 6, he might put in a crying call. And if he has a flush draw, I got to charge him something. So I'll get a little value from flush draws. He's probably getting a good price, maybe too good of a price if he has a flush draw. But if he has a 6, he's really getting a bad price. He does put out a call for the 50, and we're off to see a river. 5 of diamonds is really a brick on the end. I decided to check it. Just in case he had a flush draw, he might go ahead and fire away. If he has a 6, I don't know whether he will call another bet on the end. So hoping he will fire at the end. He thinks about it for a second and then checks it back. We roll over our 7s and we're good. Well, after losing a few pots with pocket jacks and pocket tens, we decided to play a bomb pot with queen four of clubs. So there's 105 in the pot, and the player to our right, who is a very aggressive player, decides to lead at this for $50. I don't know what I have yet, but I look down at queen four of clubs. So I flop two pair and a backdoor flush draw. Definitely going to be raising hand here to isolate this player. So I decided to make it 150. Now, I know that could have gone a little bit bigger, but I really want to get action from him because I'm pretty sure I have him pretty much crushed at this point. The player on the button tanks for a long time before finally deciding to put in the call. So at this point, I think he's on a draw or has a complete monster like pocket queens, because otherwise he would definitely want to protect his hand more. So I'm thinking he might have something like 5-6. The player in the hijack also puts in the call for the $100 more, and we're headed for a turn card. Looking for a blank so I can shove all in. Well, the turn card comes, and it's not exactly a blank, it's a king of clubs. So I don't like it that it's a king, but I love it that it's a club because now I picked up a flush draw. So if a player had king queen, I have an out. So when it's checked to me, I shove for my 322, hoping that I'll get some folds. And if I get called, oh well, I like my hand. I got two pair and a flush draw. Can't ask for too much more. The player on the button again goes into the tank for a while, and he ends up deciding to fold. And we got some pretty interesting table talk, so I'll just let you hear it.
So fuck. Doug, I wish that card would have not come so I could just fold. That sucks. I have the nut flush draw and a straight draw. 321, right? 22. 22?
Right?
The extra dollar might make a difference. You are drawing live, though.
You say Paul.
You need to catch one of your hands.
I know. I knew that when I called.
Oh, wow. That is.
So obviously that didn't turn out the way we hoped. He bet with ace high and a backdoor flush draw on the flop, and he called a $100 raise with an ace high and a backdoor flush draw. He turned, was a great turn card for him, let's face it. That's the best card he could see is the king of clubs. Gives him flush outs and straights outs. I'm blocking two of his flush outs, so he thinks he has more outs than he does. He actually only has 10 outs for the win. But, I mean, let's face it. If you're betting ace high on that flop and calling a $100 raise, there's no way you're going to be folding once you turn a straight and a flush draw. So he puts the money in. He's still not getting quite the right price, but, you know, that's the way it goes. And we end up losing this $1,200 pot by runner straight. Yeah. Ouch.
You look like someone just stole your favorite chew toy.
Well, the game's really good, and I pulled out an extra $500, stick it in my stack. I'm in $1,500 at this point. Same player that beat me in the last hand opens for a raise to 19. I decided to call from middle position with 5-4 suited. Pretty loose play, but as I said, the action was picking up, so if I can flop something, I'll be in good shape. He leads out for 20, but I thought it was 15. And I decided to make a very, questionable call for 15. And then I found out he bet 20. I probably would have folded for the 20, but oh well. Put another nickel in, see what happens. We get a turn card of a 9 of hearts, which is, okay, it's a pretty good card. I pick up a flush draw. I'm drawing live now. So, yeah, it's a little bit loose. I could be running into something like ace blank of hearts and be basically drawing dead. There's a player behind me that could have a bigger flush draw. But, I'm stuck 1,000. I'm going to go ahead and gamble a little bit because these guys are playing super, super fast at this point. The player behind me also puts in the call for the 80. So we're going to see a river with 361 in it. And I'm just hoping for a heart, and it comes the 6 of hearts. Okay, I might be beat here. I got about 350 left in my stack. First player ends up checking. There's no way I'm not going to stick it in here. I might be able to get called by 2 pair. The other player behind me snap calls, and I mean snap calls right away. The player to my right shows that he had 2 pair, throws it away. I said, I got a flush, and he goes, oh, I only got a straight. And anyway, I double through him, ended up playing for like another 30 minutes or so. Got involved in a couple other hands, but nothing too dramatic after that queen 4. So I decided to leave, take a break. I wasn't playing well. I made some silly mistakes, and I'm just like, I'm tired. I can't play long sessions like I used to. So I decided to come back the next day and give it a go. First hand I play the next day, I got ace king offsuit in the big blind. It slipped a few places. I decided to raise to 25. 2 of the players decided to defend, one from the small blind and one from the button. So we're going 3 ways with 82 in. Flop comes 8-8-3 with 2 clubs. I do have the ace of clubs. I don't think I'm going to be running into too many powerful hands. Unless they have some sort of pocket pair or an 8, I expect them to only be calling with flush draws. So I bet player on the button calls for $40. He is a very short stack. I just put him in on the turn. I figure he has some sort of flush draw. And the river card comes is a 9 of clubs. Yeah, he shows me queen 10 of clubs, so he takes down this first pot. And we're running just like we did the day before. All right, the very next hand, we're in the small blind, and someone raises for 15 to get a bunch of callers. So I decided to call with 9-10 offsuit from the small blind. It's a little bit loose, but a lot of players. It ends up getting checked around on the flop, and we can see a turn card of an 8 of diamonds. I decided to lead small just because I want to kind of like freeze the action. I don't want anyone to make a big bet, and that would be difficult for me to call with my straight draw. Well, it doesn't work out too well. The big blind decides to shove all in. He only has $55 more than my $20 bet. The player in middle position, who was the raiser, puts in the call. Everybody else folds out, and here I'm getting a pretty good price. And I like good prices. What can I say? So I put in the money. I was $10 short, so I had to go back to my stack and get it because I thought it was 45 and it was 55. Anyway, we see a beautiful river card of a 6 of clubs. And since the player in middle position kind of called that raise, I decided just to go all in. He only has like 120 behind. He doesn't think long before folding. I turn over my straight, and yeah, we win a pot. So maybe our luck has turned around here, playing a piece of cheese and getting rewarded. The player under the gun opens for a raise to 15. I do have ace jack in the +1. Sometimes I would 3-bet, but since he's under the gun, I'm just going to put in the call, and we get a couple other callers from 3 other players. So we go 5 ways to a flop of 10-9 deuce with 2 spades. It gets checked to me, and I decided to bet small, basically 1/3 pot, hoping to get some action from the other players. And if I hit a overcard or a flush, I'm going to continue firing. I end up getting 3 callers for the 25. So the pot's slowly building. We're up to $176, hoping for something good, and we get the beautiful 7 of spades. So we make the nut flush, and we got a straight flush redraw, just in case. Anyway, it gets checked to me again. I'm going to go for about 1/3 pot. $60 seems to be the right number. Hopefully get a call from either someone with top pair, or maybe someone with a smaller flush might actually put in a raise at this point. It gets folded back around to the player in the big blind, and he decides to put in the call. And the way he did it makes me think that he has something like a straight or 2 pair. I think he has a powerful hand, but is a little bit afraid of that flush. The other player folds out, so we're going to go heads up to the river with 296 in the pot. River card is a complete blank of a queen of hearts. He checks to me. I'm trying to figure out how much he is willing to call. I want to get paid off here, so I put a little bit on the smaller size, maybe about 40% pot, and I go for about 130. he doesn't think too long before putting in the call. So I might have been able to get a few more dollars out of him, but 130 is pretty good. We show him the nut flush, and he said that he had 2 pair. So good for us. We win a nice sized pot, and so far today is going much better than yesterday. All right, we pick up another big hand. This time it's kings. There's a limper in front of us. We decide to raise to 25. We get called from the player behind us. He has about $1,000 in his stack. And we end up getting a couple other callers. So we're getting a pretty good sized pot here. And we got 3 opponents putting in action. So we're going to head off, and hopefully we can be able to flop something good. We got 104 in the pot. Flop comes out ace high. There are 2 clubs, but there's also a possible straight already out there. Not a very good flop when you have 3 opponents. It gets checked over to me. I decide to check it, and the player behind me puts out a small bet for $30. What does this mean? Well, it either means he has an ace or he has something like a flush draw, or maybe he flopped a set. It doesn't matter because the player who checked decides to check jam. Obviously, he's doing this with something, at least an ace. So I just get out of the way. The other player puts in the call. Turn cards is 8 of clubs. River is a 10 of hearts. We would have just still had our 2 kings. One player shows the ace. The other one had 7-6 of clubs with a flush. And this is probably our most interesting hand of the day. We have 2 6s from the big blind. Player in the small blind decided to raise out of the blinds to 20. I decided to defend with my 2 6s. Everyone's fairly deep at this point, so playing pocket 6s in this spot is mandatory. Flop comes out Jack 8-8 with 2 hearts, so not a very good flop. Person to my right checks, I check, and the player behind also checks. So we're going to get to see a free turn card, hoping it will be something good, and it's a 3 of diamonds. So not the greatest. Player to my right checks again. I just want to get the showdown, so I go ahead and check. And now the last player decides that this is a good enough card that he wants to bet. And he bets out for $40, and we get a quick call from the player to my right. Well, there goes my chance for a cheap showdown. So what to do? I really don't like calling. I think the player to my right probably has some sort of pocket pair. Maybe he has something like 9s or 10s. He's probably just afraid of someone having a jack or an 8 in this spot. The other player, I don't think he has much at all. I think he's just stabbing. So I think the best play is actually to put in a raise and represent something. It's going to be really hard for someone with pocket 9s or 10s to put in a call, because I could be raising with a jack, I could be raising with an 8. And let's just face it, it's scary when you have to call another $100 or so when you have a hand that can't really improve that much unless you catch a 2-outer. So I make it 145. Dangerous? Yeah. But I haven't made a move all day long. I've been playing fairly straightforward, so I figure I'll get a lot of respect today for when I do make a move. Player at the end of the table kind of feels like I might be making a move, but you got a player behind him that actually he's probably pretty sure he has a hand. So he ends up folding, and the player to my right thinks for only a minute and then gets a little frustrated and tosses his cards in. He ended up grabbing his chips and cashing out, and I ended up taking down this pot with probably the worst hand. So what a difference a day makes. The previous day I was getting clobbered, running into hands, getting bad runouts, and let's face it, I wasn't playing my best, especially near the end. This day I started off kind of rough, but I hung in there and made a few hands and got paid off fairly well on my big hands. Was able to get a bluff through when I needed it, and overall I'm quite pleased with it. I didn't play a lot of hours today, but I played a lot the day before, so I was a little bit tired still. Had to get some editing done for the vlog, so I quit. I won 600, lost 600 the day before. That's a wash in my book. Anyway, I really do appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and until next time, good luck at the tables.